We're live.
Hello,
Hello.
everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And look who we have with us, Kim, today.
Hi, Vikki. I'm so excited.
Do we need Vikki comes with entourage, okay?
I do. The
Yes.
dogs think that I said hello, so that means that there's somebody here at the house. They don't. They
This
can't
is smart.
differentiate between my Zoom hello and yeah, they're funny.
Sweet puppers.
Very protective.
So sweet.
That was
Mama,
fun.
mama.
I love it. Hey, look who's there.
Hi, Doug. Sit, speak.
Hey, hello. Hi,
Hello,
Stuart. Hi,
Stuart.
Stuart. Thank you for
I was
joining
finally
us.
able to catch a couple of Stuart's whatnot shows. First of all, his shows are fantastic. He has such great stuff. The type of stuff that he sells is the kind of stuff I used to sell, and I love it. So I was finally able to grab a couple of things yesterday that he had on one of his sales. So I just had surgery recently, so I am not able to go to the bins or go sourcing the way that I normally would because I can't lift anything. So I can't lift it. So now I'm sourcing a heck of a lot more on Whatnot, like I needed any encouragement.
Oh, it's too much fun. Whatnot's way too much fun to shop on.
Yeah, I'm sourcing more on Whatnot and doing some online estate sale shopping lately because that's what I'm limited to. So
yeah, hey, that's the beauty of it. You know, there is a way to where there is a word, there is a way. And
Yes.
I love it. I love your attitude, Vikki. Thank you for making time to join us with incredible community and share our experience. I think that combined all of us, we have like 50 years of reselling vintage experience, to be honest, if we combine the three of us.
Okay, none of us are even 50 years old, so I don't know.
No,
Wait a minute.
So the way it works, okay?
I
Yeah,
am.
the way it works. I have 13. I can say 13, okay?
I'm
How long
53,
have you
so
been
yeah,
reselling
I'm
vintage?
50.
So I started selling, if we're not talking just vintage clothing, I started selling 25 years ago. So
Oh, wow.
23, not 25, 23.
So if you started reselling vintage 25 years ago, it's considered vintage now, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually it is, isn't it?
What I was wearing when I first started selling vintage is now vintage.
Yeah.
For sure.
Selling stuff out of my closet, I'm selling vintage, yes.
I love it. Welcome, Star Bryson. QLQ's LLC. Cheryl. Is she free already? Cheryl, can you give us the update?
Yes. I do believe today is
freedom. Celebrate. Congratulations, Cheryl Hinton,
Yay.
full-time reseller. We love it. And we're going to have it in Boss Reseller Remix.
I'm so excited. Cheryl has been a friend of mine for several years now.
Yeah.
And she has been working toward being a retired full-time reseller for a long time. She's put her ducks in a row. She's got her business ready. She did all the right planning. And I am so happy that she's finally at that day where she can like cut the corporate reins and she's like, that's it. I'm all in.
She worked so hard.
Cheryl. Congratulations. We're so proud of you, and you're safe here with reselling community, so much growth, and I'm so happy you took that change in your, let's say, your life mission. And what an exciting new chapter, right? Oh, for me, reselling, there would be no List Perfectly today if it wasn't because of reselling. And vintage and reselling saved my soul, my life, my finances. I cannot even tell you. I found the mission, reducing landfills and being able to restore clothing, whether it was vintage, for wool, fleece. Okay, I learned to restore everything. Okay, I got myself even a washer, okay, that had a steaming cycle so I could save on the dry cleaner. I did so many things, figured it out, winging it by myself. But I'm so happy today that I have, because the experience that I have is just, I grab it from Amanda, but I am joined today by two other people that have incredible experience on so many different areas that I don't, and vice versa. So we're excited to share that with you. And welcome everybody. Sarah, thank you, Gina. Oh, okay. Vicky says your stuff ship out yesterday. Thank you so much for shopping. I love it. There you
Wow.
go.
Same day shipping. Come on now. You need to go check out Stuart Franklin Hill Ventures. He's under all the platforms, obviously, but his Whatnot shows are very entertaining. He has some really interesting antique and vintage items, all different types of stuff. Not so much the clothing, but like a lot of like ephemera and little whatnots and knickknacks, and yeah, it's super cool.
He's so wise. Even my director of operations bought a teapot because she had the cups and he had the teapot.
I saw that. I saw that. I think that's fantastic.
I know. So we just did with the Seller Community Podcast. We just did a special with Stuart White and Franklin Hill Ventures. Okay, no, his name is not Franklin, it's Stuart. Okay, but you'll know why he named it Franklin Hill Ventures. All right, and he also not only is successful online, but the man is growing tremendously with brick and mortar businesses. And that's amazing. And he uses LP to manage his brick and mortar and his inventory online. So, and he has so many, he even shows tricks of how to use list perfectly to upload your receipts and then have a perfect accounting. So follow Stuart. Okay, it's incredible. Thank you for sharing that you source from Stuart, Vicky.
He's a font of information. There are a couple of resellers that specifically I can say that are on Whatnot that I think not everybody knows that they are such a font of information. If you want to learn about antiques, vintage, not just vintage clothing, but antiques, vintage tchotchkes, what have you, Stuart is a wealth of information just because he talks about everything he's selling and knows what he's talking about. And there are a couple of other people too. Laura Franzica is my 80s baby. She is one of our admins in the boss group.
Yep.
She is another one that is just fascinating to watch. It doesn't matter if it's something you want to collect. If it's something you want to learn about selling, you learn so much from watching their shows by how they're describing items. And it gives you an idea of, the value when you start to see what the things are selling for. So I think that type of information, that's how you learning from other people, right? I mean, that's what we're doing right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll take this opportunity to say that I have learned so much from you, Vikki, just over the past, 3 years. I can't even, I was so excited when I heard you were going to be on today because I'm like, oh my gosh, because I have just, you have no idea how much I have learned from you.
Thank you.
But what an incredible juxtaposition. I have an experienced super seller, Vicky, okay? And then I have someone that understands vintage, but however is new to the full-time reselling, Kimberly Rose. So I just want to say what an incredible opportunity today for you to learn vintage and to resell vintage perfectly. This is not about volume. That doesn't mean that you cannot do vintage for volume, but the vintage that we're going to show you is about less volume, but we will help you, okay, to maximize the return of your profits, okay, through knowledge and accurately describing. Vintage is all about describing your product. This is incredible. It's how you present the product and how you can link maybe other products, okay, from your vintage shop. I used to do that. That was a money maker for me to put suggestions of what could go with my shop, because then we found an algorithm. Of course, we found an algorithm, okay? And we would suggest if you bought something large, we would suggest you everything large that I had, and it would be by seasons. And then we divided by seasons. But that, of course, that's easy to do when you have, you do it when you have website. But if you don't have your website, you can do this with social media. I cannot even tell you how much, if you're reselling vintage and you're not doing social media, okay, you're missing out, okay, right?
I do very little on social media. It's terrible. I feel like it's so hard to do all the things.
Oh, you don't do social media? What is Katy and Vikki, please?
I do. I mean, we have our YouTube channel. That's social media. I don't do enough with, like, say, Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Reels. Yeah, that's harder for me.
but your platform is YouTube. Watch Vikki Eagan on YouTube, Katy and Vikki for weekly updates. They give accounting of what they do, their investment, their return of profit, their sourcing. They leave nothing out there. If you're not watching Katy and Vikki, you're missing out. You shouldn't be reselling vintage without watching them. They're a source of knowledge. I was just talking about one time, Vikki. I'm surprised, if you're thinking this is about clothing, you're wrong. The woman knows about. I saw you one time reselling a bonnet as seen on TV for $200. What was that about, Vikki?
I don't remember. I will sell anything that'll make me money. Like I've said before, like I started, 25 years ago or so I lived in New England. And when I lived in New England, I used to buy everything at auctions, physical auctions. And I would buy box lots and table lots and things like that. And I would just sell anything that I found interesting, but it was always old, antique or vintage, no clothing. I hated clothing. I didn't even go anywhere near clothing.
Oh, really?
I started with ephemera and camera equipment and old tintypes and daguerreotypes, old photographs and, antique stoneware and pottery, all of the things I can't find here in Nevada. I moved here almost 10 years ago, and I had to completely revamp my reselling business. And that was when I started going to thrift stores and started looking into clothing. So I had to learn how to identify and understand vintage clothing, because I found that's what I was drawn to, as opposed to current modern brands. So as far as the vintage stuff, I'm self-taught on that for sure. And it wasn't something that came naturally, but I think like anything else, when you find something that interests you and you find a niche, you have to have some sort of innate talent and knowledge as far as sourcing that is something that can't necessarily be taught.
Yeah.
You have to have that type of a good eye, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely got that.
Now, do you think let's say that I don't have a good eye, okay? And I was lucky because I had Amanda. For those of you that are alone at home or you don't have a local network, okay? Highly recommend you again, down there, Katy and Vikki, down there, right there, okay? You see it, Katy saying she's on social media, okay? But, I highly recommend you, or you do networking with incredible channels like this, or you gotta team up like I did. I came out of banking. I didn't know the difference between WHOLE, okay, whole, okay, with a whole HOLE. And Amanda didn't want to offend me, and for a year she let me spell WHOLE, which I was horrified by the time I realized of my grammatical mistakes. Okay. So I just wanted to share, okay, that if you are alone, I highly recommend you, or look for yourself for someone that you trust to go and source with, to go and consult, okay, how to restore stuff, okay, or okay, you follow up, okay, a network, or whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whatever floats your boat, because like Vikki said, okay, you can come to this with no knowledge and go through the bumps, and make those mistakes, or you can consult, okay, with us, and with people, okay, what's worth it, what's trendy, how to source vintage. So, having said that, shall we get started, Vikki and Kim?
Sure.
No.
I think the audience is ready. So, Vikki, let's go back to basics, okay? I'm going to real quick, okay, people. Oh, before I do this, I did promise I'm going to go to real basics. First of all, okay, do you mind if I share a little about you? Okay, so what? Oh, I'm going to leave the best for last, okay? First of all, okay, number one resource I want to share with you, okay? Vikki, what do you think about Vintage Fashion Guild, please?
It has taught me 90% of what I know.
Whoa,
Vintage Fashion Guild is where I started from following vintage long before Facebook, vintage eBay, category specific discussion boards was where I learned about Vintage Fashion Guild 20 years ago. And I've been using it ever since. The blogs that are attached, the references that they give you as far as other people's websites, that is my Bible. It still is. I don't refer to it quite as often anymore because I just know more than I don't have to, but that is one of the best websites. And it's free. It's a free website.
Yep. It has a membership, okay, if you want, okay, but it's free. Look, it says donate, okay? So that's something, number one resource approved by Vikki. Kim, do you use Vintage Fashion Guild? Have you ever used it or heard of it?
I do use it. I have heard of it. And guess where I found out about it from? Vikki.
Of course.
I'm telling you, I have learned so much. I'm going to say that through this whole show, how much I have learned from Katy and Vikki. They're amazing.
Yeah. Well, incredible. Now, what do you think? Okay, Vikki, what do you think about Worthpoint?
I think Worthpoint is an excellent resource tool for specific vintage items. If we're talking like vintage products, vintage hard goods, Worthpoint is excellent. Something that has a name brand, something that you can put enough details in to find a brand or a size. Say you're looking for a Tiffany item or some type of Bennington pottery or something like that. That is where Worthpoint is going to be your real money maker, and that's going to really help you find an historical value of sales throughout the years. And it goes way back. I think they have 15, 20 years of knowledge packed in there. The thing that you need to learn the most about Worthpoint is something that sold 10 years ago for X number of dollars. What is its market value now? Those two things may not be the same. It could be much higher or it could be much lower. So Worthpoint is something that I think is great to find your initial knowledge about it, and then you have to dig deeper to find current market trends on something. It's not going to give you a current market trend.
All right. And Kim, have you used Worthpoint?
Yes, I have. I completely agree with what Vikki says. I think also that Worthpoint is something that if you have a really difficult time finding something that you have that's rare, like Vikki said, since it goes back so far, you're going to be more likely to find something comparable. But then again, like Vikki said, you have to compensate one way or the other with how much it might be worth. So
Hey, Kim, check this out. What Katy's saying. She likes Worthpoint for rare vintage teas that maybe haven't sold in the last year, but I need to find more info. That's amazing because we were just talking. Remember when you look at the Duran, we'll give you, what happened with Kim and Duran during listing party.
I just love how she calls it Duran. I love your accent.
Oh, how do you say it? Oh, no. And you should see how it sounds in Spanish. Duran. We say it.
Yeah. That's closer to English. The English
really?
interpretation, actually. Yeah. I think it's cute. It sounds cute.
Yeah, you have to say it like that. Don't say it differently.
Hey, I just learned English 20 years ago.
Exactly. You only know 3 or 4 other languages that you have to keep track of. Come on.
Hey, I can spell it, okay? I can spell it.
Yeah, there you go.
Keywords, and I can sell it. I love it. Hey, Ed, my man, welcome. Hello, Nisha. Hi, welcome. I love it. So we talk about Worthpoint. Now I want to share, one more resource. Worthpoint is incredible when it comes to understanding about anything fur, real authentic fur, or anything else that you might need regarding vintage. I just wanted to give this page. Overland is a typical brand, but they have a very good buying guide. I love because they're giving it from the buyer's perspective of the different types of fur. So remember, most brands are not doing fur anymore. So if you find fur out there, okay, don't let it go, okay, to a landfill, okay, and let's reduce landfills. I understand some people don't want to resell fur, but think about, that piece that is not going to go to a landfill, and someone would be able to. There is a lot of upcycle of fur in leather, even if it has stains or holes or tears or zipper not working or the color. I used to be so silly. I used to let it go for $20 until I realized it was for upcycle. I was like, oh, Clara, you shouldn't let go. Shot New York, okay? Shot Perfecto New York, okay? With the Marlon Brando stars, okay, on the freaking shoulder, pullets, right? You shouldn't let it go for $100 because the zipper wasn't working and the zippo or the lighter pocket, okay, didn't have the stud, for example. And then I learned, okay, I should not let it go for 100, but that doesn't mean I can charge 500. So then I learned, oh, okay, double or triple of what I thought. So that's what I learned, okay, with leather, fur, in high end pieces that might have flaws, okay. That doesn't mean you have to let it go for $20,
They
okay. A
still
lot of
sell. They still sell. Yeah.
Thank you, Vikki. Thank you. Can you help me with that? Because what would you think that I'm buying? And this comes to the story when I met Amanda, right? And I met Amanda, and she shows me that she sold a vintage Ralph Lauren, a suicide skier. A heel vest, okay, and she sold it with a hole in the chest for $200, and I thought it was illegal, and I was so concerned. And this is my story, okay, of how I met Amanda. And I always say this story, okay. 2 weeks later, she comes to another barbecue I was doing, and she shows me the 5-star rating and the picture of the guy saying, thank you so much. I just renewed the vows with my wife. This was the best that I used when I proposed to her. And that gave me the goosebumps and changed my life. And I was like, oh, emotional purchase.
Every
Really?
vintage item that you're selling is an emotional purchase. Vintage clothing, especially, it's vintage. It's nostalgia. It's supposed to evoke feelings, memories. That's what we are selling when we're selling vintage clothing. Yes, you're keeping it out of a landfill. Yes, you're keeping something alive for longer. Yes, vintage clothing is generally much, much better made and constructed than modern current clothing is. But when somebody's searching for something specific vintage, and it's especially, there's usually a memory tied to it. Yes. There's usually whether it's a t-shirt or a jacket or a dress, so they're like, oh, this looks just like the dress my mom wore when she got married, and I want to wear a dress like that. Or this looks like the dress Marilyn Monroe wore in this movie that I fell in love with, and now I want to wear something like that. That's what you're selling. So like you were saying before, it doesn't matter if there are flaws. Yep. You don't have to be a seamstress to fix every flaw. Thankfully, I have the girl that works with me actually is a seamstress and fixes a lot of the flaws for me. I'm very fortunate for that. But I can't sew a button. If something has a stain or a hole, if it can be patched, great. If it can't be, lots of good photos and details, and sell it as it is.
Yes. Thank you. Exactly. Sell it as is, and you specify the diameter of the stain, the hole, like what is it? I would do quarter size hole on chest, okay? Then pin size holes on elbow, tear on, I don't know, on calf, and ring around the collar, ring around the collar. And literally, people will not judge you. Make sure please don't use words like yellow stains.
No, don't use the word stain. Never use the word stain. Call it a mark. Call it a mark. Say there is a mark, a small mark or a smudge or something from shelf wear, or there is some fading or a faded area.
Sun fading.
Yeah. Sun fading. Use those words. A stain is a negative connotation because a stain makes people feel like it's never going to come out. It's there forever. And it may
dirty and dirty.
There are lots of people know how to remove stains better than I do. And if it's a specific type of vintage fabric, I'm not even touching it. I'm not even going to try because I'm not going to ruin it. I'm not going to ruin it if it's silk or taffeta. because I know that my skills don't lay there. If it's not something I can clean easily, I don't bother to try. I just disclose it, and I say that, you know, it's probably something that will clean out.
Yeah.
I will disclose if I think it's a grease stain, because those are hard to come out.
Yes.
But I will, if it's anything other than that, I'm just going to say there's a mark of X size. This is the color, clear photo of it. Staining is not a good word. Don't put the word stain.
You gotta think how to describe your product. Again, this is an emotional purchase. People understand vintage. You know, most vintage is pre-loved, and if has never been worn, we call it new old stock or dead stock. Very important, even if it has flaws, as long as it was never pre-owned. I'm crying sometimes when I see people, okay, listing something that has never been. I buy it, to be honest, and then I sell it for 20 times more, okay. You know, and they list something that has never been used, but it has maybe like a stripe here, a stain because it was folded and improperly stored. Okay, sometimes has that little stain with the fold, and they put it, you know, pre-owned with flaws, and I'm like, okay, if you say so, you know, and you can see, okay. For example, okay, I'm gonna put this, okay, and you can see, look at this vintage. It's a gabardine, authentic gabardine with the label, okay. This one has no flaws, okay. I couldn't get rid of this one. I love it so much, okay. But sometimes they come with stains, okay, and discoloration here from the fold, okay. That doesn't mean that is pre-owned. A flaw that doesn't destroy the dead stock condition. So I want to.
Tiffany asked, what words do you use for stain? Mark. I would just say mark. Every time. So Crystal, who's the girl that works for me, generally puts the word stain when she's doing the titles. And that's okay. I just go in and change it. I'll change it to there's a mark, there's a yellow mark, or there's a red mark, or there's a black mark, and this is the approximate size, and has been laundered but does need extra care to remove this mark or something like that. That's how I would put it. Just because the word stain is just so negative. A stain means it's not coming out. Stain means it's dirty. Doesn't necessarily mean that.
Exactly.
Light discoloration, as Katy says.
Spots, okay. Spot.
Yep. Mark, spot. H marks, okay. Like I said, ring around the collar. Use that one, okay. It's not negative. I said it. I'm not gonna specify if it is yellow, beige, orange, you know, whatever it is, okay. I'm not gonna specify it, but I'm providing pictures, clear pictures of it. And another thing that I used to do, gosh, I forgot, okay. I'm gonna show it right now. When I had flaws on something, oh my gosh, let me see if I stole this from you. I know what you're gonna do. I stole it from you and told it, and now my girl does it too. So
I learned it from Vikki, because I know what she's going to say. So it's like a circle all the way around.
Let me see if I find, okay, we're going to go here, okay, to the clothing vault, okay, and I'm hoping I find something with flaws, okay, because I will show you how I mark the flaws. No, this one has no flaws. Gosh, wow, that's a good one, huh?
Back to the photos. I can tell you there's a couple that do, because they ended up in my closet. So
I love it. Oh gosh, I have nothing with flaws. Just when you look for, oh, there it is.
There it is.
There you go.
There you go.
Do you see how tiny that is? Okay. Do you see how it's almost invisible? But as long as you disclose this, okay, if you scatter these colorations, most notably on back right shoulder area and lower center back area, likely to come out on first wash as seen in photos. Why first wash? Because vintage dead stock with defects, just to cover myself. We didn't know back in the day. You gotta understand, I haven't resold in so many years, and this was run entirely by my employees with no experience, based on templates that I had. Okay, that's how I did it. But highly recommend you, don't be afraid. Okay, with vintage t-shirts, okay, make sure you're always showing, okay, the copyrights. Okay, this is very important. Okay, when you're doing vintage, if they have it, okay, that's a big difference on pricing. And I just wanted to show, you know, how to display, let's say, what is it? The blemishes. Okay. Yes.
The red tape is what you're showing. That's key. The red tape draws attention to it. And it's clear that it's not part of the garment. It's clear if you take photos and then if you do batch photos and then you go and list later, days later, weeks later even, you're going to forget that there's a stain. If you have some blurry picture of a stain that you took while you were taking photos, you're not going to remember where it is, what it is. But if you have the piece of red tape there, it's clear that, oh, here's a flaw. Let me double check that and make sure that I put it in my listing. The red tape has been invaluable. Buy a roll of red tape. I don't get it at the dollar store. I get it I got mine on Amazon. I gave it to my girl Crystal that uses it, and it's perfect. And I don't even take the tape off.
And you know how I got that from eBay, talking with customer care after I lost the case. Okay. eBay, we're talking with eBay, and she's like, at that time I was using a dime or a blue cute cardboard arrow, and they told me, can you make it more rustic, okay, so people cannot say, and eBay helped me. They reimbursed me literally, okay. They pair up, but they asked me, moving forward, can you use something more noticeable? And I was like, you got it, okay. you bet. And then we tried so many things with Amanda, and then we tried with back in the day, there were many people using, remember, screens were not LED like now, okay. They were like this big clunky monitor, so quality pixelation was a bigger problem. So I remember we did that, and the end of a problem, I never literally eBay could discard the items, not a discard, like literally in 24 hours, okay, I would win the case and they would discard it.
I use the tape every time, and I don't take the tape off even when I take it home and I store it and I put it away after it's been listed. I leave the tape on and I ship it with the tape to the customer. Because if the customer sees it when they take it out of the package and they didn't notice it, then they're going to go back and look at their photos from the thing they purchased. They're going to, oh yeah, they did say that was there.
That's right.
And it reminds people, because people don't read. We know this. They don't read. They barely look at the photos. But if you keep the tape on it, you have the ability to be like, well, please go look at photo number 6. The tape is still in the same spot.
That's such a great idea. I never thought of that, leaving the tape on it. I don't know why I didn't. That's amazing. Okay,
It's not that I'm trying to draw attention to the flaw, but I'm also most of the time the flaw is not as bad as you're making it out to be, and the tape is glaring. So that if you send it, and they're like, "Oh, that's it," like that shirt you just showed. Those 3 tiny little dots. Nobody would have noticed that if you hadn't brought it to their attention in the listing. So when they get the item and they go, "Oh," and they go to take the piece of tape off and go, "Oh, that's nothing." That's actually even better, because it makes it that it's better than they feel like you described it.
And one of the things I found with the red tape is the amount of returning customers I would have, because they would tell me, I love the way you describe clothing. Thank you so much. And they would come back. Back in the day, we were one of the few, there was this big misconception that reselling vintage was just for very broke, what is it? Bin diving, okay, resellers, okay. Supposedly we were the bottom, okay, until I went to the bins. I found something for $1 and I flipped it for $4,000. Then I was like to my family, bye, I don't care if you don't like it, that I'm going to the bins. I'm not going back to being a lawyer. I'm not going back to banking. Reselling is way more fun, and that's what we did. So when it comes to sourcing, okay, we're gonna find very different kind of products. We're gonna find, okay, the ones dead stock, vintage dead stock without flaws, which we already shown. Okay, we have vintage dead stock that's never worn, okay, or new stock with flaws. And then we have like new. That means, okay, that's how I describe it. That means, or excellent. That means that it's a product that has been previously worn, all right, clearly, okay, has been previously worn, all right, but there is no flaws. There is not a single hole.
I like that shirt a lot.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I couldn't give you. I kept 5 items that I couldn't keep, that I couldn't give you, Vikki. And this is what I'm
have to keep it. I know.
One of my favorite bands and friends of mine too. So
oh, really? Really. So that's one thing. Okay. Then we have, all right, I want to show you another thing when it comes to vintage leather. Please look at the armpits. And when you're buying leather, okay, and fur, I want you to do this. Okay. You're going to sit it up. All right. And then you're going to shake it like this because you want to see if that zipper, okay, is sturdy. And you want to see if the seams on the shoulder are going to hang in there because you could have dry rot or whatever that is called. What is it called?
It's dry rot on t-shirts. I don't know what it would be called on the leather, but I know that leather does, the bond breaks down if it's not stored properly when it's old. It's almost as if it turns into like that fake Naugahyde vinyl from the 70s that cracks and peels.
Yeah.
Even if it's real leather, it'll do that if it hasn't been stored properly over the years. I don't know if there's a special term for that or not, though.
No, I used to call it like dry leather, okay, areas on shoulder and elbows, and then usually torso. It would be on shoulders, armpits, and elbows, and then torso and back would be fine. And sometimes if it is a collar that you can tell that someone maybe came from a dry weather, then you would have like crack all over
under the collar.
Yeah. So that's something that when you source vintage, okay, forget about stains. That's one thing that I can tell you about. Okay, forget about stains. Okay, obviously, you want seams to be sturdy. Okay, because that was one thing that I use always to. Even the most challenging looking products, I would say all seams are firm, okay, and the zipper is working or zipper is not working or seam is not firm on bottom, front bottom or back bottom or something like that. So what do you think about those tips, Vikki?
No, I think they're all good tips. I think testing the integrity of the seams is important. A lot of vintage clothing is handmade. And handmade clothing was made very well most of time. But I mean, there are some crappy sewers just like me out there that didn't make great products, right? So the seams can get loose over time. The seams, especially like you're saying, the shoulder seams, the underarm seams, the seams along the side, especially if someone were wearing something. Now, this was pre-spandex, right? So especially if something were wearing something, they were stretching it a little bit. Like think Kim Kardashian and Marilyn Monroe's dress that she just wrecked with her big old butt, right? I mean, that beautiful dress from the Smithsonian that she should never have put on because she damaged vintage clothing. It did not fit her properly. But that's the type of stuff you want to tell. And like you were saying, stains, if it's something that is 100% cotton or 50-50 cotton, and it's white or gray, don't ever worry about stains because you can fully bleach all of those things. The graphics don't bleach, the color doesn't bleach. And that's something that Katy learned and talks about a lot.
I was saving that one, Katy. If you thought I forgot about it, no. I saved it. Couldn't agree more. Bleach, not so much a friend of bleach. Okay, I love Oxi. If you get Oxi Clean with super hot water, I prefer it over bleach. Okay.
Bleach does break down the fabric over time. I wouldn't suggest doing bleach all of the time, but if you have something that's the best way to save it, especially a t-shirt or a sweatshirt. I do not recommend bleach on any other type of product or cotton, not polyester, not nylon. It will eat the fiber. It'll eat the fibers. But the other thing I say too is if you have something that's 100% polyester, there is no stain that you cannot get out. 100% polyester on a dress or a t-shirt, a zip-up shirt or button-down shirt, disco shirt, something like that, polyester suits, double knit polyester. I don't care if the spots are yellow, brown, green, it could be blood, doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
That is the easiest fabric to get stains out of. And that is just using a good stain treatment, whether it's like Grandma's Secret or Fabuloso. I don't care what you use.
Oh, yeah, Fabuloso. Super affordable. Dollar store.
Grind it into the fabric. LA is awesome. You just grind it into the fibers. Use a toothbrush, a little bit of Dawn dish detergent, toothbrush, grind it in, let it sit for a day and wash it. It comes out every time. Washer, dryer. Don't be afraid of those type of fabrics for vintage because they clean up really well.
I have a tip that I don't know if people know. How do you what's the easiest way to remove stains from suede, nubuck, or any porous leather surface?
I don't know if it's the same thing you use, but I use a suede brush with dark bristles. Oh, an eraser.
No way.
Yes, way.
Are you kidding me?
The freaking eraser also removes pen stains from leather. Okay,
You are
despacito,
kidding
slowly,
me.
slowly. All right. Yes, the brush is good, but sometimes the brush, if it is porous, it's gonna create even it's gonna make the leather a little more brushy and furry, if you please, compared to other spots of the area. Unless it's a furry leather, okay, that's different. But I found, okay, for maybe goat skin. Oh my God, my knowledge of leather. What was the
Viconia.
Lamb skin.
Viconia.
Okay, no, oh yes, lambskin, because it's so lamb. Any kind of young calf or anything calf stuff, that's oh no. Okay, so there, no, not for the doggies. I promise I will not use it with the doggies.
Let me mute this for a second. Sorry, keep talking.
So that's one advice, Kim, that I have, okay, for incredible removing stains for leather, and especially, okay, for any fabric that is animal made, okay.
I'm taking notes right now. Seriously.
So I love that I can share that tip. Restoring was very important. When it comes to sourcing, Vikki, do you pay attention to brands? Are you like, okay, brand oriented, or how do you, if you're not brand oriented, can you please explain us how do you do it?
So most vintage clothing is not going to have a brand.
Okay.
Sorry. Crystal is here at the door, so that the dogs are going nuts. Anyway, so most vintage clothing is not going to have a brand at all.
Yeah.
At least women's vintage clothing. You will find brands in general, yes, but you know, there are also brands that I wouldn't pick up that are current that I will pick up that are vintage. I wouldn't pick up a current Sears brand dress or a top to sell, to resell, but Sears men's store from the 70s, I'd pick up all the time. You know, so that's, you know, I wouldn't necessarily pick up Walmart brand George or White Stag clothing now, but I'd pick it up from the 80s and the 90s because it was better quality and it's vintage. It's different. You know, most of what I would sell, I say probably 70% of what I sell has no branding whatsoever. And you're just going to buy based on the quality of the construction, the style, the decade that it's from.
Yeah. I found Sears. Look, I found Steer High. That's what I wanted to say. So that's Sears Roebuck. Okay. You know, that's one of the lines that Sears had. Okay. But that doesn't mean I would not buy this incredible jacket. Okay. Even though it's missing the strap. Okay. You can see it's missing the strap. Like Vikki said, I would not pass on. Let's suppose that I found this jacket and it doesn't have the collar tag here, like Vikki said. I could still look at this. I could still buy this because, like Vikki said, it's not about the brand. It's about, look at these chest pockets. Okay, this vertical.
It's the style. It's all about the style.
Thank you so much, and it's just a different quality. Like you said, it's an emotional purchase and a different quality. The leather from nowadays is not the leather we had back in the day.
No, it's not. It's better construction. Everything is better quality nowadays. Even if you were buying high-end couture is still being made in places like China and Vietnam, and it's still outsourced, and they just are putting a high-end quality tag on it. It's not necessarily made any better than the stuff that you're buying at the mall. Sometimes it is, don't get me wrong. Some high-end quality couture deserves every bit of the price tag because it's very well-made, bench-made items, bespoke items, things like that. But there are certain things that you're definitely just paying for a name tag, and it has no difference in quality and construction. But older items are definitely made better. They're made better whether they were handmade. There's a lot more care to detail done at that point. Clothing was not meant to be disposable the way it is now. Clothing was meant to be worn a lot. We didn't have huge closets unless you were rich. You didn't have a huge closet. You had 5 to 7 dresses that you wore over and over and over again if you're a woman. And, you know, and then if you're, especially if you're in school, and then you'd pass it down to your younger sister. So that clothing was meant to be worn more, and it was meant to be cared for. And if you're lucky enough to find that stuff out in the wild, you can just feel the difference in the construction.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I have a question, Kim. Do you use the word vintage on the title, or do you abbreviate it, or do you skip it?
I do not abbreviate it. If it's a vintage item, I put the full word in the title.
And what do you do, Vikki?
Same. I put the whole word in the title. We found out a couple of years ago that the word vintage spelled out is more heavily weighted in SEO than abbreviated. You will say on eBay, for example, because it's the largest platform and has the most complicated SEO and item specifics. If you put the word vintage spelled out in the title, or if you put the word VTG in the title, and you were to search both items with that information, the word vintage, everything full spelled out, is going to come up fat first, and the abbreviated items are going to come up after that. They're both going to come up, but not in the same order. It's weighted more when it's spelled out entirely.
Absolutely.
And you should repeat it, and then in your description, and you should repeat your title in your description, and then you should also put VTG in your description. You should have both that way. I don't suggest you need to do it both in the title, but both in your description is important. That way you're picking up both.
That's pro. That's pro. I did not. I wish I would have done that. If I could rewind as a reseller, I would add the VTG on the product description box. Okay, that's where you might want to add, okay, a VTG 80s with an apostrophe maybe, but please don't use apostrophe if you're gonna use it in
not in the title. Okay, not in the title.
Put a 80 apostrophe S. You put vintage all the way spelled out, okay, and then you put 80S, or you can leave vintage 80. You don't even need the S, okay? I would leave it at just 80. What do you use, the little S or not?
I use the little S, and that's exactly how I start. You know, there are the formulas that are suggested by eBay how to create the best title and things like that. And actually, those two things would not be in the front of your title if you use those types of formulas. I don't. Every title for me looks like that: vintage 80s, vintage 90s, vintage Y2K, and then it's the item. I don't put women's, I don't put men's. I think that's redundant. I don't think it's necessary in the title. You can do it if you have the room, but it's much more important for you to use the item descriptors and keywords in your title than it is to use the gender of the item, because the gender of the item is picked up no matter what. It's going to be picked up because of your item specifics. If someone searches women's dress, they're going to get a women's dress. You don't have to have it in your title. Or if they start using the boxes on the left-hand side to dial in, that's how they're going to find the item.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Lisa Watt says, how old does an item have to be considered vintage? And I'll give you two answers. 20 by definition, if I'm not mistaken, but Etsy decided to do 18 because they have to code, okay, every year the category. And sometimes, okay, to implement those categories and eras, okay, takes a little. And that's why Etsy says 18 minimum. So did I get it right, or was it all the way around? I have this.
No, you're right. It's technically supposed to be 20, and Etsy was really the people that changed it to be 20, because years ago vintage was 25. 25 years and older was 25, you know, and antique is 100 or more. And those two terms have become a little bit more flexible due to selling. Some people are going to call something 10 years old vintage now, and they're not necessarily wrong, because it's just a different era of style, especially the kids that are selling on like Depop or you know, they're selling on Whatnot. They're going to call something that's 2010 vintage. My daughter would do that. It's not by definition, but a lot of people will think it is, because they're like, yeah, that was super hot 10 years ago. It's not hot now.
Vikki, I have a super question for, okay, Gina, you got the pro here. If there is a woman that can describe dresses, because I am not good at it. Okay, I stop at peplum. What is it? Wasp waist, and oh my God, I stop at there. Okay, but you, Vikki, the way you describe dresses, Gina, Vikki's store is LV Pink Peacock. Okay, wow, the woman can describe. What advice could you give us to an incredible Gina, please?
So honestly, you're going to start your title with vintage 60s dress, and then you're going to put the size. And by that, I'm not talking about the size that might be inside the dress, which there probably won't be because you said it was handmade by your aunt. So there won't be a size there. But anything vintage, you are going to ignore the size tag inside the item itself. You are going to, there's a couple of different websites that are available, but just Google and find a chart that shows modern day sizing. It'll show, you can get women's, juniors, men's, and children's. And you're going to measure your item, your chest measurement, underarm to underarm, not pit to pit, please God. Underarm to underarm, shoulder seam to shoulder seam, waist measurement, waist to hem for the length of the skirt. And then you're going to want to do the measurement from the back of the collar to the full length of the skirt. So you have the full length of the item. That's how you're going to measure those items, but you're going to compare that to a modern day size chart. So almost anything you're going to find now, if she wore a size 12 and it said it was a size 12 in 1970s, that's a small now. That's a size
or small. Extra small, you know how,
or even extra small. We're a lot bigger as people in general. So what you're going to do is you're going to put, vintage 1960s, whatever style dress it is. That's something else you can do. You look that up through Vintage Fashion Guild, but there are also other websites that will show you styles. Like a shirt dress is something that buttons all the way up and usually has a belt and it looks like a dress shirt with a collar. Or there's like wiggle dresses, the kind that they'd wear on Mad Men that just are like ship tight,
Wow.
So you're going to want to put the style of the dress because that's what someone's going to look for. A fit and flare dress, that's something that's fitted at the top and at the waist and then flares out with a full skirt. Wow. That's how you would describe it that way.
That's amazing. And what about, would you include the pattern? Like, for example, not if it is solid, I'm not going to waste my money on solid, okay? But what about if I have like flowers or...
Yeah, floral, paisley, ditzy. Ditzy is a small floral print.
On the title?
Yeah, all in the title. Put all that in the title. And then when it comes down to it, if it's something that's multicolored, let's say it's a blue dress with white flowers, you're going to pick the predominant color of the item and you're going to put that as your color in your title. You're going to put that in your color and your item specifics. You're not going to choose multicolored. Nobody's checking off multicolored when they're searching. Nobody's putting multicolored in a title to search. Yeah. You're going to put the predominant color and then it'll show up in all the other, ways that you can drop it down. If it's a blue dress with green flowers, put blue. And then you can put that it has green flowers, obviously, and you're going to see it in the title, but pick the predominant color for the category. You want the most eyes on your item.
Absolutely. I have a pro question here. I'm curious. What if it is a vintage 50s rockabilly two-tone jacket where the distribution of colors is even? Do you think I should use the two-tone? Back in the day, I used to use it.
Yeah, I would. If it's just like if it's like black and white, two-tone. Or color block is another one, and use at least maybe the top two colors when it's color block from like the 80s and 90s. That color block, and then the other tip that I'm going to say, and this is one that depends on the people, but I am always going to put my vintage items in the category that you're going to get the most eyes in. I put vintage women's dress in women's dresses, not in vintage women's dresses. Because when I'm speaking of eBay, when you are searching for an item, not everybody, the vintage category narrows it down too much. It's going to pick up if they search vintage dress anyway. Yeah. But if you want a woman that's just looking for a black dress, and maybe she didn't think about buying a black vintage dress until she sees it because it's going to be in the dress the dress category in general. So narrowing down your field is not what you want to do. You want the most eyes on your items.
Okay.
So some people will object to that, but I definitely will put all of my items in the regular categories.
Yep. All right. That sounds good. Okay. If you guys, you got it. There you go. We said something about dresses. Now I want to change genders. Okay. We're going to go real quick. Okay. To men's vintage category. So they don't feel, I just want to keep my top sold items when it came to leather. Okay, this was my top, okay, category. This is where I make my money. Okay, look at this, my website. The second you click on it, okay, it goes to the leather. So you see Vanson. Okay, that's an incredible brand. I don't know if you can see the deep pockets here. We have deep pockets with zippers. This is an authentic vintage 60s Philadelphia police leather jacket. And this is a Swedish horsehide leather vintage 40s World War II jacket. I cannot even tell you, we just really did so good, okay, with this category. Just showing you, I'm going to show the pictures, okay. Again, showing different pictures. Look at the interior. I always shown, okay, the interior liner when selling, okay, men's clothing naturally, because when it comes to coats, okay, there is sometimes a lot of discoloration on the armpits. So that's something that your buyers want to see right away. This is a shot that I highly recommend you to do. Another one is to show the calves. So you see, you can show that there is no scrapes on the calves, and you can show here on the same shot the chest or the belly, okay, so you can show that there is no scrapes. So in one shot I would get everything, and in the following shot I would show this to show that there was no peeling on the fur collar.
Wow.
So those are my 2 cents about men's clothing. You, Kim, okay, what's your best advice, when it comes to reselling? What's your I think it is men's, or I think you've been doing mostly men's vintage clothing.
Yeah, mainly because that's what I find more of. I've gotten to really enjoy vintage t-shirts.
Yeah.
So, of course, most of those come in unisex men's type sizing. They were, initially sold as men's basically. So that's my favorite. I always gravitate, towards the vintage t-shirts. So.
Oh, and you have to share your Duran story.
Oh, this is crazy. Oh my gosh.
Excuse me, ladies, for 1 second. I'm just going to pop out for 2 minutes. Okay. I'll be right back.
Okay.
No problem.
But yeah, I had this t-shirt when I was in high school, and I had a bunch of things that I had left with my mom when I moved out, and I didn't know she kept this stuff. And a couple of years ago, I guess it was, she said, "Hey, I just found all this stuff. Do you want it?" I'm like, "Sure." So she had sent me pictures. She lives like 5 hours away, so she sent me pictures, and I looked at them, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about this stuff." Fast forward a little ways, and I listed the Duran t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I had it initially listed for $199.99. And oh goodness, I got in trouble for that because
What do you mean?
Oh, well, I was at a listing party with the List Perfectly team, and it's where we all get together and we look at listings, we test different features and that kind of thing. And so I had this a Duran t-shirt listed, and Doug was there, and he said, he loves Duran. So he said, "Oh, don't you think I don't see that Duran t-shirt?" And that kind of became the focus. And he said, "Oh, she's got it for $200." And Clara said, "Oh, no. Wait a minute. What?" And anyway, fast forward again. Clara said, "You need to raise the price on that because somebody in LA is going to buy it. They're going to pay $200 and they're going to resell it for $500, and that needs to be your money." And Doug said, "You need to add some keywords to that title."
Yeah.
And he said, "Add the words Sing Blue Silver Tour," because that's where the shirt came from.
Yeah.
That was where the t-shirt was from.
Yeah.
And so I did those two things. I raised my price like you had suggested. I put those keywords in the title. And it wasn't maybe 2 months later, which was a couple weeks ago, I guess, I sold it for full price, $499.99.
Okay, let me put that. I'm in therapy right now. I'm gonna put vintage Duran. Okay, let's see. I love it. I'm trying to find it. Okay. Oh, I gotta do by pricing. Yes, that's why an average sold
Yeah, is
price.
it kind of
That's
expensive?
why I'm not finding
Ah,
it.
there it
There she is. There
goes.
she is. Okay, hold
Thanks
on.
to Clara and
Let me
Doug.
go to the listing here. Okay, there she is. So Doug
Mhm.
suggested for you to add the tour, which was Sing Blue Silver, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. He said put that in your title because that is the tour that the T-shirt came from.
And
So
of
I
course,
did.
me, okay, increase the price, all right?
Yes.
And
Thank
here
you,
you can see,
Clara.
no problem. And another thing that we did, okay, you can see it here, but we also asked her to use, okay, what is it called? Oh my God, you did this with what? You didn't do this with the prop plan. Check it out.
No, I did not. I this was before I had the Pro Plan and before I had background remover. I know. Isn't it
I
funny?
love it.
And I'm shocked that it sold because I didn't use the Pro Plan, but
Yeah.
the keywords in the price, that's
Yeah.
what brought in the buyer, I guess.
Absolutely.
So
That
yeah.
was just an incredible, and that's what we do, okay, with Listing Party, okay. We look to optimize listings, review, okay, titles, okay, review the description. Again, vintage is a highly emotional purchase, making an introduction sentence, okay, of the brand, okay. Let's say H bar C, founded in, I don't know, 1947. I'm making this up, okay, but I know that HRC has been around, okay. That's a Western, okay, very classic brand, okay, Western brand here in America. So it's very important, okay, that if you have a brand, you define, okay, you find something about that brand, okay. Sears Roebuck, okay, you can Google that. You can go to Vintage Fashion Guide. People love to read that. All you have to do is cut and paste champion, funded, la 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 la, right? Or
Yeah.
if you have no brand, you talk about the style, rockabilly style, started in, I don't know, by the end of the 40s or beginning of the 50s,
Yeah.
and so forth. And it's the era defined, where, I don't know, people were adapting, to leather jackets, okay, for bright biking rides or stuff like that. So, it's important that you make an introduction to your vintage listings. Take your time. Listing vintage is not the same as listing new products, right, Kim?
Right, that's correct. And like you said, people want that story, especially if they're buying, for nostalgic reasons. They love to go to the listing and relive and that will even promote, a sale right there. So, yeah, having that story. And how hard is it to get on Google and find a little tidbit about a brand? It takes 2 seconds. So it's a
Yes.
very, very good investment of your time to do that.
You're going to be, when you list, okay, I always say you're going to be reactive or proactive, okay? You're going to include the measurements when you're listing, or you're going to receive the questions of the measurements and will this fit me? And you will get frustrated. And then you choose to answer each message, each buyer with the measurements, okay? Be proactive, all right? So with prices, with the description. Gina Medica says, I might even have a picture with my mom wearing the dress. Should I add the picture in the listing? Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I
Yes.
couldn't even say the biggest problem and the biggest request you get when selling vintage women's clothing is that, unfortunately, with most people will ask you, hey, can you model this? Or do you have a picture? And you're like, no.
Yeah.
So I would say absolutely, Gina, feel free, to maybe if you're
Yes.
to keep the privacy of your mom to, cut or maybe cut it here or blur it out, right? Because it's all about
Yes.
the fit and the environment at the light, and feel free to retouch the picture, sometimes with our background remover, or try with a little, at least perfectly image manager with retouch it with a little brightness, okay?
Yeah.
So that will enhance a little much more the picture. Highly recommended.
That's part of the story of the dress is if you can, show a picture of like her mom wearing it.
See, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Gina says, I see people not putting any information in their descriptions, how they even sell it. That's a different Gina, yes, you could do it like that. Okay. There is the old school. Okay. We used to sell a lot heavily with image based. Okay. And very literally a title and one line of a description. All right. Because that product might be highly wanted. Okay. Or it's maybe a seller. Okay. That has no idea and is something new. Okay. So, I would recommend, okay, to always, like I always say, okay, describe like if there is no images and take pictures like if you have no room for description. That's the rule. That's how you want to this is about maximizing your profits. Okay. This listing without descriptions. Okay. That's more for a volume seller. If you're going to be reselling in bulk, okay, I recommend wholesale. Okay. Right. Bulk, bundle it, go to wholesale. Oh, Gina, of course your mom was beautiful. Yes, Don, I know about that. I sold my mom's shearling coat. Okay, but I sold it out of desperate necessity to fund list perfectly. Yes, thank you. Star Bryson says, okay, I think it depends on what you're selling. A vintage item needs a lot of description. A pair of modern silver jeans, not so much, just the basics. Yep, that couldn't be more accurate. Oh, look who's back. Hold on, hold it. Oh, hey!
Sorry. I have my Crystal, my assistant. I haven't seen her in a month, and she was dropping off and picking up stuff for me. So,
no, thank you for coming back. And no, we were just chatting on different things, and I'm literally okay. We're coming to the end of our session. And Vikki, if I was an experienced vintage seller that I started a while ago, okay, what would be one of the things that you have been doing differently, okay, recently, okay, that has given you that you're like, oh, how come I haven't been doing this before? Is there something you have done differently in the last couple of years that has changed, okay, your business in a very positive way?
I would say there's two things. One of them is a very simple thing, and it is honestly, Photoroom has probably changed the quality of my photos and how good they look. I started using Photoroom before List Perfectly integrated it, and I love it, and I love how crisp it can make a lot of the photos look. Sometimes it's difficult to show details, and I think Photoroom is excellent for clothing more than almost anything else.
Yeah. There you have it.
But I also always will say to definitely involve yourself in Facebook groups, sometimes category specific Facebook groups. There's a lot of vintage Facebook groups that are like in search of, and they allow you to sell and buy, but I follow those to see what's currently trending. What are people looking for?
Yeah.
Because vintage 60s and 70s stuff is always popular, always will be popular. The 50s, 40s, 50s, early 60s, that pinup look, that whole rockabilly pinup thing, also always popular, but it wanes and ebbs. It ebbs and flows as far as popularity. But there are certain things like, Y2K and the 90s trend that is really hot in the last year or two, or the cottage core that nobody knew what the hell Laura Ingalls cottage core was. Right? When we first went on lockdown for the coronavirus, and everybody was trying to make their own, sourdough starter bread with like pioneer women, that was when we all decided cottage core was a new thing. But it wasn't always called that. So learning what the different trends are and learning what the different hashtags are, and to bring certain buyers to your items is really important. Staying on top of current trends. So I say Facebook groups, Instagram, follow Instagram tags. You don't have to participate just to read the information, to soak the knowledge in. It's really important. I'm not a huge Instagram user. Yes, I'm on Instagram. I don't use it nearly as enough as I should. I don't use TikTok at all, except to watch dog videos.
We all do.
I'm watching all the dog and the cat videos. That's my entire algorithm. Is thrifters and dogs and cats. That's all I see.
Yeah. Oh, I love the videos to stretch your back. Oh my God. No. I love the videos. Okay. My back, like I'm hours like
it's true. I mean, so those are the things that you're going to want to, even if you feel like you don't understand vintage. Yes, there are certain, definitely tons of resources online. There are shows to watch. You know, whether it's YouTube, whether it's my channel or anybody else's, you're going to want to focus on somebody that you connect with that teaches about vintage. Like, don't just talk about, not just, hey, this is what I sold and this is my fire item that I sold for $400. Why did that sell for $400? Why did you buy it? What makes it popular? That's the kind of stuff. That's where you're going to absorb the knowledge, I feel like. And that's where I learn from people. Like I said, I love watching Stuart and Laura and other friends that I have that sell on Whatnot. I don't necessarily buy the things that they sell, but I have bought from all of them. Because I can't find them out here anymore. But I love learning about things, and people that are knowledgeable about what they're selling and then are willing to impart that knowledge to you, that's the priceless part of this community.
Okay, question for my vintage pro queen. Okay, Vikki, I love buying vintage. Question: if you have vintage clothing and it does have a brand that isn't still making clothes, could you include the brand in the title?
If you have room in the title and you're not sacrificing another good keyword, then yes, I'll put the brand in the title. If it is a brand that doesn't have a following, or if you look at solds and you see that the brand isn't commanding anything, then nope, I'm not going to put it. If it's vintage White Stag or vintage something like that, you think that's a Walmart brand, right? Nobody's going to be searching White Stag to buy vintage clothing. So I wouldn't put that title in the title at all. It's going to be in my description, but I'm not going to have it in the title. My description is going to lead with all the great qualities about this item. My title is going to lead with all the great qualities about this item. Then the brand becomes irrelevant because the title isn't going to matter. If somebody's like White Stag, they're like, that's that cheap shit from Walmart. I don't want that.
Thank you.
But it could be a $150 item. It could be worth $150. I have a pair of White Stag vintage ski pants that are worth a lot of money. That if I just put White Stag ski pants in the title, they're going to be like, I don't want these crappy things from Walmart. So you have to weigh what the brand name's value may or may not be. There's not a black or white answer for that, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with that example that you gave. Vintage 80s, okay, puffy skiing jacket, okay, neon, okay, that's way much better, okay, than White Stag, like she said, okay. Absolutely, thank you so much. Raining Retro says, okay, I think brands with cheap reputation now need to be left out or could turn off buyers.
I agree.
Incorrect sometimes, because you could have, okay, a brand, okay, that sometimes that is current, okay, and it got a reputation now, but back in the day, that brand was very good.
Stussy, Massimo, Ocean Pacific, all three brands from the 70s, 80s, and even early 90s before they cheaped out and went to Walmart and Kmart. Those brand, not Stussy, they haven't yet, but Stussy did mass produce and changed the way that they do stuff. So those older brands, even though they may not have as much value today, if you put vintage 80s Ocean Pacific in your title, that's a big difference. So that's where I would put it in the title.
That's right.
But it's going to be very specific. It's going to be brand and item specific. Again, that's the thing about vintage. There's no hard and fast rules. There's no black and white. Everything's a little bit of a gray area. Yes. And it's just about learning the nuances, which takes time. It's like anything else. It takes time to become very knowledgeable at things like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, Vikki, what is the most exciting vintage piece, okay, you've ever saw that you're like, oh, I can't forget about this one. Still hurts when I was shipping it. And
I think most recently I wish I could find it to show you a picture of it. But Kim might remember it from one of my shows if she had watched it. I paid about $1 at an estate sale. I had a huge pile of stuff that I paid $100 for the entire table full. So I'd say maybe I paid $1 to $3 for the item. It was a 1970s bubblegum pink lined polyester jumpsuit with rhinestones all over the collars and the belt.
Whoa!
Like Dolly Parton should walk out on the stage wearing this thing. It was so Dolly Parton. If it fit me, I would have been rocking that thing. Let me tell you.
I remember
big
that.
wide leg jumpsuit. I paid maybe $3 for it. It did sell on Thrilling. It sold for $300 on Thrilling, which was where I thought it was should go. And that's the thing with pricing. Again, people ask about pricing. Price it high. You know, you got to. I price things the way I think it's worth and what I think it's valued at. And you know, I did end up acquiring a lot of the inventory from the clothing vault. And it's funny, as I went through a lot of Clara's items and her items that she sold, I would put, you know, I would put prices and then I would go and look at some of your old cached things. My prices are high, just like yours. I would always price something high, and I don't always get that price, but you can't get it if you don't ask for it. Just like with her Duran t-shirt, can't get it if you don't ask for it.
Exactly.
Perfect advice.
I love this question. What do you think about this question, Kim? I love it. You're ideal. Kim, what do you think? Okay.
Absolutely. It can be very long tail, but it's very worth putting it out there, and, you know, don't rush it. You know, vintage is a very, very long tail thing, and it might take a while. You might get lucky and it might sell in a month. It might take a year, but you know, there is going to be somebody out there that wants that item, but just be patient.
So one thing you got to understand, I want to explain to Reigning Retro, you got to understand what you're sourcing, the sizes you're sourcing, okay? Because if you're sourcing, let's say, I have here, this is very, very extremely rare. This is as rare as it gets, and I couldn't let it go, okay? Let's see if I can show the tag, okay? This is a military field jacket, okay? Dead stock. This is 1950s, after World War II, okay? What makes this so special, that is a long size, small, long, okay? That means because back in the day, the military would only enroll, okay, people that would have like a medium size. There was medium or large would be the sizes that the military would have back in the day. XL, okay, small, long, all those sizes were very, very rare. So just think, if you're going to be sourcing a field jacket, okay, a men's field jacket, okay, World War II, and it's size extra small, you know you're going to sell it to a woman, most probably, or you got to sell it to Japan, okay? Maybe to a different country, okay, that, you know, they have a different way of using clothing. That's something that I need to think. Now, if, okay, you're going to be sourcing, okay, and again, everything depends on sizes, okay? Now, this is a bit, I love this one because Matthew McConaughey, I couldn't let go of this one. Matthew McConaughey wore a similar one. This is dead stock again, as you can see, crispy. This has no flaws whatsoever. You know, so this is another one I couldn't let go, but the size is so sexy. This is a medium, and it's not a tight medium, okay? So this could be worn by mostly, okay, this is a current men's small, okay, because as we talk, vintage sizes are smaller, okay? But, okay, what is important is just understanding who you're going to be selling it to, where you're going to be listing, like taking advantage that eBay allows you to ship worldwide. When you're selling vintage, I cannot even explain you. Please sell worldwide if you're selling vintage. If you're not selling around the world, you're missing out. There is platforms like Grail, not only vintage, okay? We have Grail. Poshmark, I think, still US based. When you list in Poshmark US, it's only Poshmark US, right?
Yeah. Poshmark's still only US, but Etsy, Grailed, Thrilling, these are all platforms that you can sell internationally to. I would say I sell
Yeah.
Probably 25% of my sales on Etsy are international sales, and
All
at
right.
least 10 to 15% on eBay.
Oh, you sell more international on Etsy than eBay. I heard it
As a
all.
percentage of my sales, um,
Oh, vintage.
and
You're right, because we're talking about vintage. Yes.
yeah, and to answer the question that you said before about it being a long tail item, everything's long tail when you sell vintage. Everything. There's very few items that you're going to find that are going to sell like that. And when you do, yay. I mean, that's awesome. But I have a huge, if you're going to focus on selling strictly vintage, you may need to have a larger inventory than you would if you didn't. That's one of the things that most people don't think about. You need to have the space to store items because you need to have, if something's going to take on average 6 months to sell, you need to constantly be replenishing that inventory so that your newer items were going to be mature enough to sell in 6 months. I don't know if that makes sense the way I'm saying it, but
yeah.
Everything takes time to sell. So you need to have a lot more to choose from if you want to maintain the sales numbers, if not the volume that you might need to for your business. I am considered a high dollar seller, but I am not a high volume seller. My average ticket price is over $75 usually, depending on the platform. So if that's my average sales price, I'm not selling 1% of my inventory a day. I have 4,000 items. That'd be great. I'm not selling 2% of my, some people say that there's a formula. If you have X number of items, you should be selling 1% of your inventory each day, or you should be selling, 30% or 40% sell through every month. Those things are not necessarily true.
No.
It entirely depends on your business model. My sell through is probably 8%. That's my sell-through rate, anywhere from 8 to 10% monthly. My overall sell-through, I sell about 80% of my inventory within 1 calendar year.
Okay.
And maybe 20% takes longer than a year. So I look at that as I have an 80% sell-through rate because I need to look at it over a longer period of time than just 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. If I look at it over a year, if I'm turning over my inventory, 80% of it once a year, I think I'm doing okay. And everybody needs to figure out their formula that works for their business.
Exactly.
Because it's not going to be a one size fits all.
So one of the things I did to take my vintage business to the next level, okay, is using List Perfectly to cross post. And back in the day was Instagram, but I used Pinterest. I used everything, Facebook pages. I used everything I had, okay? So you can see here, okay, my listings, okay, how I cross posted with the Pro plan, okay, from LP. And this changed my life. These really, look at the hashtags. I get hashtags. List Perfectly does that for me. I was able to start tagging, okay? That was in the beginning. I couldn't believe, okay, on Instagram, I started to tag, okay, H bar C, Shot NYC, okay? They responded. Then my products started to get purchased by rock stars and Ralph Lauren and so forth. So I want to show you guys, I started the right way. By the end, okay, I didn't do it the right way because I was tired, okay? But when I started social media on Instagram, this is my first post, okay? Levi Strauss, okay? I did this myself. I didn't board that. These are all my images, okay? So here it is, my little bundle of shipping, my t-shirts. Of course, I had a Levi Suede, okay, jacket. Bruce Sprinting, look at that. I put the American flag, okay? Look at this. I did all these things, to promote List Perfectly. Oh, these are all, look at the Aloha shirts, okay? This is a Han 10 t-shirt. I had so much fun doing this, okay? Look at my shipping again, this was daily.
So cool though. It's so cool.
This is look at my inventory, guys. So like Vikki was saying, look at that. I used to have 5,000. This is a 2-car garage, okay? These are racks that are double, all right? Do you see how it's bended a little there? Because I have so much leather. So I had 2,500 listings on a 2-car garage, all right? I bagged silk or wool, okay? Or white cottons, okay? And then I would use different colors of hangers because that would help my employees to not mix up when they have to put something back if they have a question that, typical, there is questions. So I tried to use as much as I could. Back here, these are my unlisted pile. So like Vikki said, it's a numbers game. The more vintage stuff you have, the more you will sell, because you're going to be able to retain the more, okay, your buyers in your store, and then they're gonna start trying to buy in bulk. Okay, so for me, that was once I passed 4,000 listings active, okay, on my website, eBay, etc. That's when I started to sell big. That was when I was literally in track to make $500,000. Okay, and my investment return was, for every dollar on the heyday, I did 20x. For every dollar, I got $20 back. Okay, but
I'm about 12. Every dollar, I get about $12.
But I was buying in bulk so aggressively. Yeah. So you see, I would go like with a budget. Literally, I would go to my buyers, okay, and they knew Clara is coming, okay. Ooh, they buy it up for 3 weeks, and I would tell minimum I'm gonna be spending $5,000 to $7,000. And when I said that, okay, of course, they would shut down the warehouse. They would allow me to, and of course, sometimes I would spend even more, but the return I would get out of that was just insane. And I would shop, and then I would do the other trips just to cherry pick. That would be my like Ralph Lauren polo. The P wing sweater, right? Ralph Lauren Southwestern, double R, embroidered suede notebook jacket. Then I started to do those. Okay, but for the volume, like Vikki said, when it comes to style, that's what I did. Buy in volume, invest on vintage. That was my best investment, other than List Perfectly. I'll be honest, it would be List Perfectly if it wasn't vintage.
Wow. Amazing.
Amazing. What a session. I love it. Invest on vintage is the best thing, okay? Only accrues in money. Make sure that if you are on a desert weather, please have a climate control, okay? Or make sure you're not in Arizona where we have 120 degrees, okay, for 4 months, okay, on a row, okay? Day and night, by the way, day and night.
I'm not much better. I've got my 4,000 items in my 120 degree garage, but it is sealed to, it's a little cooler than the house, and it's sealed to the elements. So there's no dust and there's no sunlight getting in there. That's no moisture. So
exactly. Oh, look at Vikki. They just subscribed. Yay. Subscribe to Katy and Vikki. Okay. Go and learn weekly from Vikki Vintage. All right. Have questions, ask Kimberly on Facebook, List Perfectly group. You need more questions. You want to go even deeper, like let's say that is something very sophisticated, go to Boss Reseller group on Facebook, okay? Vikki and Katy are there, okay? Make sure you're not alone. You don't need to put the weight of the weight of the world on your shoulders, because there is a network and we're ready to help you.
You don't have to learn the way we all had to learn, by trying to going to the library and taking books out and and reading and looking at photos to try and figure out decades. You don't have to learn that way anymore. You have a wealth of information on the internet, but also in Facebook groups with people that are willing to help and share their knowledge. So yeah, take advantage of that for free.
Absolutely.
For free.
Vikki and Katy and Kim, we all will help you for free. This is no subscription. You don't need to come and pay us. Just join in the group. Understand our rules. And then feel free to post your questions. Thank you, both of you, Vikki and Kim. You make List Perfectly such a much beautiful place. Okay,
thank you for asking me, my friend. This was fun.
Clara, is there something that we might want to give away now?
Do we? Shall we do something? Oh, all right. Let's do this. Let's do. Okay. Do we have the information? Do we?
I do believe it's going to be.
I almost forget.
The chat.
Woohoo! Tiffany.
Got my drum roll.
Tiffany.
Oh, they're making us wait.
Yeah.
Just
Okay,
wait.
hold on. I'm gonna do what Doug says. Okay, I'm gonna get my sophisticated system. Oh, thank you, thank you.
And the winner.
I love it. Hey, Tiffany, did you forget about us? Tiffany, okay.
No, that's
We're
not
gonna.
right. I remembered.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. Okay, I'm gonna choose someone. Oh, check that out. Oh,
Oh,
it is Tiffany, Sunny Las Vegas. Congratulations, Sunny. Yay!
Yay, Sunny.
Sunny is my buddy who lives here in Las Vegas. I just got to meet him a few months ago, and now he's part of our meetup group, and get to see him all the time. He's a great guy. Great guy. You guys will get to meet him at the remix. He's coming to the remix. So
awesome. Yay.
There you go, Sonny. Doesn't matter if you have LP already. Okay, you can switch plans, get a month free, give it to a friend. Okay, you decide what to do with LP. Please email. It's not automatic. Okay, you gotta email Tiffany@leastperfectly.com. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Cheryl Stark, Stuart, Lisa, Era. Hey, thank you, Piece of Scrap. I love Piece of Scrap. I love it. In America. Star, thank you, everybody. I love you. Go make money, okay? Let's make this happen one listing at a time. Love you all. Have a beautiful day.